Hello, welcome to my tutorial again. Today we are going to discuss about Java data types. If you can remember, like in the last two tutorials, we talked about the variable names, and we used string as a data type, and we used integer as data type, right? And what these data types are doing is basically they are storing the information into the memory and then later on retrieve it for the program execution, right? So this information, what we defined as, is basically we are doing we are telling us the data types. So যেমন ধরা যাক int x equals 15, right? So this is a data type and this is what the value is. So these are kind of like related, right? So আমরা যেই ধরনের ডেটা টাইপ ইউজ করব আমাদেরকে ঠিক সেই রকম ভ্যারিয়েবল অ্যাসাইন করতে হবে। ওকে, যেমন আমি ইন্ট এক্স বলে আমি এখানে কোনো ক্যারেক্টার কিংবা স্ট্রিং এখানে অ্যাসাইন করতে পারবো না, বিকজ দিস type of value doesn't go along with this type of int. So এই জিনিসগুলো ডিফাইন করে দেয়া আছে এবং আমাদের প্রোগ্রামারদের খুব ভালো করে জানতে হবে যে what are different data types and what are their ranges and what they can hold in the memory, right? Okay, so let's move on. So আমরা বলতে পারি data type হচ্ছে basically ব্রড ক্যাটাগরি অনুযায়ী দুই ধরনের। একটা হচ্ছে primitive data type and the other one is the non-primitive data type. Okay, so primitive data type হচ্ছে these are kind of like built in or already defined or already supplied by the system. Okay, we cannot change it. On the other hand, non-primitive data type হচ্ছে কোনগুলা, এগুলো হচ্ছে user defined data types. Okay, data types. Okay, যেমন এর মধ্যে পড়ে string, এর মধ্যে পড়বে arrays, objects. Okay, so এর মানে হচ্ছে যে প্রোগ্রামার যারা তারা এই জিনিসগুলো ডিফাইন করবে to hold the information, but other than that we have a large number of primitive data types that is supplied by the system so that we can use it. Okay, so now let's move on to see like what are different kind of primitive data types. Okay, so তাহলে আমরা দেখি, and by the way we'll talk about the non-primitive data types later on, so let's focus on first on the primitive data types. Okay, so file here, and I'm not going to save it. Okay, so primitive data types. So here primitive data types, and these are basically two broad categories. One is Boolean and the other one is the numeric type. Okay, so one is the Boolean and the other one is the numeric type. So Boolean is basically giving us this option. It can be only true or false. Okay, so what does it mean, true or false? মানে Boolean data type দুটোই ভ্যালু হতে পারে, এটা হতে পারে either true or false. আচ্ছা, numeric data type যেমন আমরা বলি যে age. Okay, age is a numeric data type. আবার কোথাও খরচ করতে গেলে যদি আমাদেরকে পয়সা দিয়ে পে করতে হয়, okay, so we have something after the decimal points, so that's a decimal point, right? So these numeric types are having the character type and we have the integral type. Okay, so character type একটাই এক্সাম্পল, সেটা হচ্ছে char. Okay, what? যেমন A is a char, or B is a char. Okay, so these are you can consider A to be a character type, and which is again a part of numeric type. আপনার হাতে চিন্তা করবেন যে এটা কিভাবে numeric হয়. So there is a conversion. We can convert the character, like all the characters of A, B, C, D to Z, up to Z. We can convert that to the numeric. We'll see that later on. Okay, and the integral part can be again defined as a two type. One is the integer, and the other one is called the floating point. Okay, so ইন্টিগ্রালের দুটো ভাগ হচ্ছে, একটা হচ্ছে ইন্টিজার আর আরেকটা হচ্ছে ফ্লোটিং পয়েন্ট। সো ইন্টিজার মানে হচ্ছে যে কোনো নাম্বার উইদাউট দ্য ডেসিমালস, লাইক 1 2 3 4 5, okay, 1000 2000 3000 1001 2001, like these are values without any decimals, so we call that the integer type. Okay, and floating point is always with the with the decimal points. Okay, now I'm ready to 123.45, so that's a floating point number. And then again, the integer type can be divided into like 4 ways. Yeah, there are so many differences, right? 4. Okay, so the number 1 is called a byte type. The second one is called a short type. The third one is called an integer, and the fourth one is called a long type. So these are basically all whole numbers. Okay, these are basically whole numbers, but their range changes, and I'll talk about the range shortly. Okay, and then the floating point is of two types. One is float, and the other one is double. Okay, so that's it. So now we know how to define the primitive data types, and it's going to be like this. আমরা যদি কোনো boolean লিখতে চাই, we just write boolean x. Okay, আমরা যদি লিখতে চাই character type, so character y. আমরা যদি define করতে চাই byte, so byte a. আমরা যদি define করতে চাই int b. আমরা যদি define করতে চাই long c. আমরা যদি define করতে চাই double, we define like this. So these are all different type of data types we are putting in front of the variable. Okay, and we now know like the type of data types basically of two type, boolean and numeric. Boolean is just having true and false. Okay, and the numeric has a character type which is defined as a char, or some people call it char. And the other part is the integral, and the integral is again defined with a two type. One is the integer type, which is a whole number, and the floating point, which is the decimal points. Okay, and we also saw like how we are going to define that data type with a variable. Okay, so in the next tutorial we'll look into the range of these data types, because the range is very important. See, because the byte is defining a whole number, and then the int is defining a whole number as well. So if they do the same thing, what is the difference? So the difference is called is between the range of these data types. Okay, all right, so in the next class or next tutorial we'll be talking about this this range, but till then, okay, goodbye.